Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. Andrew here, and you may have seen our making drum and bass from scratch. I think it's like 4 or 5 parts so far. There is a playlist. Shout out to Ryan who runs the channel that set that up. And today I think we're ready to finish it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mastering, mixing for the producer who's mixing and mastering their own stuff. So let's go ahead into the Logic session. Here we are in the track session. I'm going to play it from the beginning. I turned off what I had the mastering chain on. I'm going to enable it and sort of build it again, kind of show you what's going on here. We're working with Izotope Advanced 9, so you will need that plugin to follow this. However, you can apply a lot of the same principles with other plugin suites. So here's the track without further ado. Let's keep it going. All right, cool. So let's talk mixing a little bit. You're gonna want to start with like the loudest part of your song out. That's one super helpful thing. How loud you make other things is gonna be based on this loudest section. With generally we want to see this hitting at -6 at the most here. One trick you can do if you're short for time and you're working fully in the box anyways, you can cut some gain out of it just with an EQ, making it softer. All right, this is really helpful if you're mastering somebody else's music and they're not familiar enough with techniques to deliver a track at a certain with a certain amount of headroom. This is going to be really common when you're working with your average bedroom music producer who is new to this, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are going to be your clients in the beginning, so whatever you can do to make their stuff sound the best will help your bottom line. So let's go ahead, and we want to bring up an analyzer, and I'm going to bring up this WLM meter from Waves. Something with a Luff's meter is going to be really helpful. If you look into like Spotify, which is one of the main places people are going to deliver a full release of music, they tell you that they want tracks delivered at a -11 Luffs. Now, on a side note, I've had this experience because I work with a lot of different DJs, and mastering producers who are making their own tracks is like a huge part of my business. And I've learned through trial and error that they're going to want basically like 2 masters. The ones that they're playing live, they're going to want, at like -4 Luffs or something crazy like that, which is really, really too loud. But ultimately, they're the client, so give your client the work that they want, or they will go elsewhere. So let's turn on our excuse me, Izotope 9. I'm gonna turn off everything and kind of go through what we're doing here. So low end focus. This is something I've got from Reed Speed. It's pretty helpful. You can kind of play with the amount of low end focus. So without it, this drop sounds like this. I turn it on. Really does some magic. Then I'm always using some tape emulation. Reed Speed says if you go north here, it feels sort of darker, brighter this way. So I have it a little bit darker. And this is what I call my Drew Master. I put this on a lot of my tracks. All right, now in my EQ, a lot of times I'm boosting some of the air in the track. That is really helpful because I end up with mixes that are really bass heavy, as do a lot of producers. So that is negating that. I'm using their imager, which basically has 4 different bands. These are frequency ranges in the track, and I'm then expanding it based on that. So we have it getting bigger basically as we get higher in the bands, and then everything that is below this 183 hertz is actually becoming more mono or more narrow. And we can see the space that creates. Now, since we have mostly low ends, right there, you're going to notice it's really mono. But when we get those other fills happening, it widens up. Cool. And then finally, you're going to want to use the maximizer. Now, if you're lucky enough to have Ozone 9, they actually have a target Luff meter, so you can change this and use the target to try to figure out how loud you want to make your track. A custom way of doing that is with this Luff meter. So if we play this, we're at -20. Now I can go back and take off my EQ cut since my track wasn't too loud. I don't have to squeeze it as much. All right, so this right here, -11 over here, is really what you want to deliver tracks for digital distribution. So I'd bounce one there. But then again, for your DJ friends, I literally once was working for an artist, not going to name names, and I get a call on Instagram. I didn't even know you could make calls on an Instagram. And he's like pretty angry, and he's like, why did you give me a mix that is at -11 Luffs? I usually get stuff at -3 Luffs. And I'm like, well, because I thought you were going to release the track, and that's what most people want. But again, I even have a breakout video about this. Doing creative work for people is a huge part, figuring out what they want and what they're looking for. And again, if they're your client, you want to make them happy. So here's what I would do for that client. All right, warning, those of you wearing headphones are probably going to want to take them off. You perhaps noticed how much louder it gets there. Now, as we squeeze a track, what's happening? What are we compromising? Well, one of the biggest things to understand about loudness and compression is that there are ranges. There are things that are soft in volume and things that are louder in volume in most tracks. As you squeeze a track more, the difference between what is soft and what is loud becomes closer. This then leads us to what a lot of people call like sausaging, or a sausage of a track. If you look at SoundCloud and it shows you the audio and it looks like just a solid squeezed thing, that means that the master was super, super squeezed. That works for certain styles of music. The artist I'm mentioning makes tech house, and so especially when they're DJing those tracks. It's just slamming the whole time. And so it's fine for that style. For a lot of tracks, when people are listening on Spotify and they're hearing music played in the context of other music, having things that are not as loud is really helpful so that things that are louder feel bigger. And this whole thing is referred to as the Loudness War. So again, we're in this kind of like post world where there's like a right or wrong thing to do in music. Do what you want, show your music to people. If they like it, you'll get fans. If you get enough fans, you can hire whoever you want to work on your music. And they will, again, create different tracks for different settings. And that's kind of been a modern thing a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, where like the mixes artists are bringing to DJ festivals versus those same mixes that are on Spotify. So let's go ahead and listen to our track from the beginning with a sort of a compromised set of compression. We'll go with -3 decibels. So you could pause this, you could play it from the beginning and at the end to hear the difference. So here's our master. You see we're still at like -22 here, which is good. I like having dynamic range in my songs, because it's going to make this next section feel a lot bigger. I'm going to back it off a little bit. Cool. I'll probably make a little bit of an outro there before I send it off. But I'm going to try to send this around to some people. I may just end up putting it out as a free download, in which case I'll definitely do a short about it or put the link on the channel. But I'll also send it to some drum and bass labels. I love drum and bass, and I haven't made a lot of this kind of music. And getting some feedback from some people who specialize in that kind of music is going to be pretty cool and helpful, and I will circle back with that. If you found this helpful, you would help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. Once again, this is Music Theory Logic, and I like to cover all sorts of different topics related to making music, the headspace or our minds when we're getting creative and making music, pitfalls that you can fall into in the industry, and again, letting you into my creative space here in the lab. I've gotten better at enjoying what I make while I'm filming, but I'm still not there, so bear with me. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you next time. Have fun making music. Till then, cheers.